So I have an open source project that is the OpenEHR OPT. It's basically a set of tools. The structure is very unorthodox, so it was built in a custom way, patch by patch. So I wanted to formalize how we build the project and run the tests. I wanted to use Gradle. Sadly, the first source I use is YouTube to find tutorials about how to do things. And I couldn't find a guide on how to use Gradle to build a Groovy project. This is mainly Groovy, so everything is just Groovy code. Let me show you what I mean. Groovy is like Java-like, but it has a different syntax, slightly different syntax than Java. And Gradle is a build tool that is like kind of an alternative of Maven, and I was using that for a long time, but in an indirect way in Grail's framework that uses Groovy and uses Gradle to build, but I didn't use Gradle in one of my projects from scratch. So the first source that I found with some useful information is this guide on how to build Groovy applications with Gradle. And this is a very nice, straightforward guide. So the first thing that I did, since I already had the project, is to run the Gradle init here. And you can see here in the commands that I run, this is just my history of commands related to Gradle. So first I did a Gradle init. I already have Gradle installed on my machine using the SDK man. So SDK man is the thing that I use to manage some packages. So this is a very nice package manager, mainly JDK stuff. So here I have, for example, SDK, list, Gradle. I can show you the Gradle versions supported by SDK, and the current version that I have, and is the only one that is installed. I have two versions installed, sorry. This asterisk means that I have those versions, and the currently selected version is this one. So I already have Gradle in my machine. And I went to the folder of my project. I just ran Gradle init, and it creates, first is it asks you a couple of things. So what you want to create, to build really. And I wanted to build an application. So basically option 2. Then I think these questions was, for at least for my version, these questions was not asked. This one, yeah, I selected Groovy because my project is based on Groovy. And then you can select the build script, a domain specific language. And I choose also Groovy here. And then it creates, it asks you a couple of more questions. This project name was OPT for me, and the source package is just one package inside the project that is, for me, is com.cabolabs.openhr.opt. That is the main package for the whole project. So I just answered that there. And it creates this structure. So this guide is very, very straightforward. So I just needed to do that. And the structure it creates, it adds a Gradle folder in your project. So I will show you, here's my project, and I have a Gradle folder here, yeah, with that structure. So it has a couple of files there. One is a program, and the other one is a configuration file. Then you have a couple of executable files, one for Linux, Mac, and one for Windows. So I have the Gradle W. Gradle W means wrapper. So it mainly runs this program here. So these are just the access point to this program. So the but I don't need that, but because I'm building on Linux, but I left that because maybe someone wants to build on Windows. So I left that on the project. Then it creates some settings.gradle there, and that should be here. So not much there, I think. Settings. Yeah, not much there, just the project name. So that is the answer to this question, basically. Then you have a build source somewhere there. I don't think I have that folder because my build is on build. Yeah. Then the application itself, this one. The application should be source. This is the only folder that it creates for me. So the structure is a little different in my project. So I don't have this build source. I have this source and build Gradle in my root folder. So both are here. You can see source here, and the internal structure of source is basically this main test, and inside this you have Groovy as this purchases. The problem is this is Java, I think. No, Groovy. Maybe for the example, the language is not Groovy but Java. So this is a little different. Yeah, this is Java. So for the Groovy project, it just creates the main. This instead of Java is Groovy in my case, and test Groovy again. And then the root package should be here, like com, Cabo Labs, OpenHR, OPT should be there. Yeah. Then I don't think this or this was created for my project because it's Groovy. And if we check the Groovy options, for instance, if I go back and cut, and this is build.gradle, this is applying the Groovy plugin and the application plugin. These are just dependencies, and these two come by default from the options you selected, and these are dependencies I added for my specific project, and this is just the name. Is the full qualified name, the package plus the class name of the main class. So this application, even though could be used as a library, is also an application, contains some commands, and all the commands are executed from the main class. Yeah. So what I needed to do is to actually put all my the code that was not structure in that way. So my code is just source, and here I don't have main, Groovy, etc. So I needed to move this code around a little bit to fit into the structure generated by the Gradle init. Yeah, so basically this application structure, all my tests are under the test library folder. All my code is on the main folder, main Groovy. And then I added some resources. So here is this is the structure, the new structure. So if you go to source, you have main and test. If you go to main, you have Groovy and resources. In resources, there are all the static files that are loaded or used by the application. Yeah, everything is there. Before, all these folders were on the root folder, just here. For instance, the schemas, or here test. Where are the resources? These canonical JSONs should be somewhere here. Here in resources. I have a folder that is called the resources. So I moved all these resources to that were on the root/resources to root source main resources. Yeah. And with that, it actually ran all the tests. So all the tests that I moved to this test folder that were already implemented, those were run. So what I did next, let's just check the history of commands. I executed the Gradle W build. Yeah, so if you do that, it will try to create the jar for the project, so compile everything, but will also run the tests. And you can also run the test alone without the full build process with Gradle W test. So I will just execute the Gradle W test. And you can choose also if you want to execute the test from one class. I have 3 classes here for testing, and this one's generated from the Gradle init. If I want to run just the test inside one of these classes, I just put --tests and just the name of the class. And that, I took that from here. They have also a nice guide on testing. So they have somewhere the options, a list of options that you can use. For example, here. So you have Gradle, test, then --test, the name of the class. Also, you can run a specific method, just one specific test case. You can also do that. Yeah. So it's very handy. And if you run, we will just run that for fun. And hopefully that will run all the tests. We have one test that is failing. That is a known issue because it's something that is not implemented yet. But that doesn't matter. This is just to show you how this builds. So it basically runs some tasks. It tells you that one test was failing. That is the test that I said that will fail. And the nice thing is it provides some report. So if I click on that one, on that path, it will open that on the browser. It will show me the failing tests. This shows the failing test by package, and this shows the failing test by class. Yeah, so it's very nice. And here you can check, for instance, here. This is the failing test. So this is basically saying that one method is not found. And that is a known issue. This is not implemented yet. Then you can see all the tests inside this test suite, this file, and just one is not passing. And you can see here the output. This is just what is printed out from the tests. So if any test just print out some strings to the console, instead of showing those on the console, this grabs all the output and you can see it here. So this is a very nice report. I can go back to this. I can go to the classes. So this is very nice. And this is the classes inside this package. So this is also the successful cases. So these are other classes that contain some test cases. This class contains these 4 test cases, all pass, and you can see the output here. And if we go to the other one that has a lot of tests here, it's already also passing, and you can get the standard output and standard error if any errors were printed out. So you can see those there. So it's a very nice report. Yeah. It highlights the failing tests. You can see that the default page or the thing that you see first is the failing tests, and then you need to navigate a little bit to see the successful tests. So it's very nice, and it gives you a lot of detailed information, and you will get the basic information about failing tests here in the terminal. So it's very nice. If I remove this failing test, the build should work. So if I do like Gradle w build, that will work. If I run that build, because there is one failing test, it won't build. So the build task depends on the test task. If the test fails, just has one failure, it won't build. Yeah. So if I run that, I won't find the jar, the generated jar in the repository. So this was very nice. It was straightforward. I just have everything working in a couple of hours. The Gradle init worked right away. The rest was just moving code around and fixing the tests. Some of the tests that were loading, for instance, files from the file system directly, those needed to be modified a little bit, because when you work with this structure, you need to run, when you run the test, you need to load the files from the resources, not from a specific local folder on your machine. So you need to tell Java or Groovy in this case that you want to load the resource from the resource folder. Yeah. So that was the only the main issue, or the most time-consuming task, to make all the tests to load files instead of the root folder of the project, to load the files from here, from main resources. Yeah, that was the main task. But this is working. So the next step is just to add what is not implemented here. That is basically some XML serialization functionality that I was working on before trying to make this Gradle build work. But everything is working okay right now. I'm happy with the result. I didn't merge this branch yet into master, but I will do that after this specific issue is working, and every test that is implemented in the test suite is passing. Yeah, so very nice. I recommend you to take a look at Gradle as a tool, and the Gradle guides that are really good. And I will post this video on YouTube because, as I said, some people might look for this kind of information on YouTube, and there is no information about this. So I hope this helps some other guys looking for doing something similar to me. So that's it. Enjoy and goodbye.